Yes, sound of the future.
Sound of the future. Now, Sam, you are an artist that is very focused on a specific goal, and you are to use your uh, musical and performance acts to specifically have, as I read from your biography and project description, that you're aiming at empowering and enlightening the collective of our society that at certain times requires a lot of care into creating communities that are in sync with each other. And you do it with a very specific and very original, in my opinion, approach. You mix different styles of music that you like, and you also addition that with uh, visual and dance with that contain also your own self, your identity, your body, and you also encourage that for other people. So this is very fascinating for us, and we're very inspired by the degree of involvement that you have. And we would like to know how did it all start? How did this become? How did this become a single vision, a well wrapped up picture in your head, and that you kept on working on?
Well, I love that it feels like a well wrapped up picture from the outside. And it does. It feels like it's always felt like one thing for me. And I think one of the things that's been most challenging in my life and why I hadn't found like professional sovereignty through my art for many, many years is because it is all one thing to me, but from the outside in, it feels like all these different pieces. And so a lot of the feedback I got throughout my life was focus on one thing, focus on the art, or focus on singing, or focus on dancing, or focus on event production. And my soul just couldn't do that. But it takes a lot more than like weaving through the worlds to get it to come across as one thing. And I think what I can identify now that I was not able to articulate when I was younger is that um, all of these forms of art and experiences are like different entry points into people, into connecting with people, into having people receive information. I was also a teacher for a few years, and I studied with people on the autism spectrum. So thinking even more about how people receive information differently. So I think when we're working with color, with motion, with movement, with sound, with frequency, with vibration, with immersive experiences where even more of your senses get ignited at events. That's like, why wouldn't we want to do that? That's like all of these different entry points, all of these different languages to access and activate more inside of the individual. So now it does feel pretty darn cohesive, but it's taken years of like believing that my vision could indeed be true instead of just following, which by the way, I love and support people who are one track and becoming a master of that one thing in that one lifetime. Completely support that. I just know that my soul imprint is like working with these different aspects together. And I think we have the beautiful Tiihane joining us, right as I'm saying that. Of course she is. Hi, Honey Bunny.
Hi, apologies. I was doing all the technical things.
That's
Welcome.
part of this life now, isn't it?
It really is. We've just learned how to survival.
So, Tian, please introduce yourself.
Yes, I'll just jump right in, even though I don't know who you both are. I'll have to have you introduce yourselves as well. My name is Tiihane. For anybody who gets overwhelmed by that pronunciation, it's Tiihane, like if you think of tea, honey. My name is Tahitian. I'm Pacific Islander and Croatian mix. I am a public speaker and a creative director and a performing artist. I'm currently living in Los Angeles, but I'm a nomadic world citizen human. And a lot of the work that I do is across America and Africa. I've been doing that for the past 10 years or so, working with many different creative communities, usually at the intersection of art, commerce, and wellness. And now, of course, you know, I've integrated emerging technology into that by hosting things in the metaverse, working in Web3 and NFTs. And my core mission is just using any sort of creative mediums available to be able to bridge cultures and divides.
Amazing. That's cool. Do you feel like you're living your passion?
Deeply, yes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Evan, were you going to say something?
Yes. So you said to introduce ourselves. Sun is the co-founder of SoundRig, and I am the podcaster and member of the team. I help as much as I can. And I'm also an artist in the platform, soon to release my first work for them as a single artist. I'm also a member of a band, and I work so across the Web 2 and Web 3 as an artist and as a freelancer as well. So I'm here to help. I was asking Samantha about how the picture for the art of her, like the art of yours, is became a single wrapped up vision because it wasn't easy, as she was saying, and this is common for many projects, not just art, but any project for entrepreneurs as well. Many different experiences sum up together to become a single picture, and when we understand that, we can take advantage of all the experiences, negative and positive, that we've had without having to feel like we wasted time in those moments in our life in which projects didn't end up well, because they can convert into different experiences. So this is a very good way to start the journey into the art of yours. So I think we should talk about Rosa Riot. What about it?
Amazing, yes. So this is a visual album. It's going to be an NFT project, and it's something that I've been envisioning for like 4 years, for so long. And for a while, I couldn't figure out why it wasn't clicking into place, because so many of the components were there. I had so much of the music written. I had so many of the music videos, mapped out. And I didn't realize until later that it was because the world of NFTs was right around the corner for me. So I've spent the last year and a half digging in, and I'm of course still at a moderately moderate level. But we got the beginning level down, and we're deep in this world now, and it's really opened up so many doors that would not have allowed this. I did not realize that the world of NFTs was right around the corner and about to significantly change the way that I create, not necessarily created my artwork, but produced and sold and packaged and envisioned how it could be sold. I always, when I think of my art, I was like, yeah, I want to do this digital animation, but I want it set to this music, and I want to have the photographs that went in part of it, and I want the layers of the collage, because I think they're all beautiful pieces of artwork. I like the layers. I like the meta aspect of it. And that was so hard to execute before the world of NFTs, for me at least. And now that feels pretty smooth and getting even more eclectic and more possible to do even more things, like including tickets and digital and physical and all of the things. So now that that's in place, and also now that I'm in LA and connecting with amazing, incredible humans weaving in the music, art, creative direction, and Web3 world like Tiihane, now all of the pieces are really clicked into place, and this can get off the ground. So that's kind of the background for how it's been coming together. But conceptually, this visual album takes course over 1 full year, from spring to spring equinox 2023 to 2024. And it's very specifically made over 1 year because the impulse, the intention of this visual album is to help people see the patterns and cycles that we can become aware of that help us get to know ourselves better. And as we get to know ourselves better and deeper, then we come into our true power, our creative nature, our essence of our divine. So it's all keys, right? So as we go through these cycles, these spirals, we can just keep learning and getting deeper and deeper. Or we can just ignore it and not ride the momentum of the energy of the season and make everything so much more challenging and not do our healing work, right? We can do that. We can do that any lifetime we want. But ideally, we are going inward and doing that healing work, and even beyond healing work, just being oh, I'm already it. I'm already what I'm looking for. I'm already here. And just coming to that place. So that's the intention of the album. So everyone that I've been connecting with really has that clear vision as well. The producers, the creative directors, even you guys at SoundRig, I really feel our integrities align on that vision. So it feels like a very pure ability to execute that and bring that to life.
It's very interesting that we met at this time, Sam, because I feel that I was fighting against my energy, going against it for a long time, almost all my life. And only when I started aligning with it, actually when I met Gigi, my fiance, right, she's well into that, and she's one that's you're doing it wrong, honey. Basically. the last couple of years since Ida was born, it's all switched. And all the energy is flowing. And I don't know if you guys have felt in the last 3-4 months, maybe a bit longer, but it's crazy right now. I'm feeling like I've never felt before, and it's peak. Like the energy is peak at the moment. And then we met you, and then you're doing this thing, and I'm just like, we're on the right path for sure. Yeah.
I love that. I felt that too. And we first connected over, I heard you say something about vinyls printing, and I sent you my meeting notes. I had just written, like, I would like vinyls on this record.
Oh,
And
wait.
that was the first time I even heard you open your mouth. So I was like, okay.
I want to get to that level of instant manifestation as well. I think it's almost there. It's almost there. Wow. And Tiihane, sorry. Oh, by the way, I hope you guys don't mind me having a cold beer, but it's the end of the week, it's Friday evening, so I'm like, man, it's been a long week, and I could have one. And I wish you guys could have one with me as well, but
We're,
I'm
we're
having
feeling it vicariously.
I'm having some chamomile.
we got 2 teas, water, and typically me with the beer. Right. Fair enough.
I'll grab some green later.
Tiihane, what is your role with this then, specifically, like with the project? How is it working, and how did you guys properly meet, actually?
Yeah, well, all of those are cool interwoven questions. And I would say that actually tailing off the end of what you just said in terms of that alignment, synchronicity, versions of instant manifestation, whatever you want to term it as. Samantha and I met also in this, it was actually last spring, which is hilarious now that Rose Riot is focusing on the spring, because our sort of first year portal of our friendship and collaboration was from last spring equinox to now. And then now I'm obviously involved moving forward and for the rest of Sam's life, whether she likes it or not. But we met in a music studio. There was a really incredible Web3 conference going on in Los Angeles, and there are all of these many different events that go on around the city, similar to South by Southwest and other festivals that have full city immersions. And in one of these very tiny settings where we were maybe the chances were like 1 in a trillion that we would meet, because there was only like 6 people in that room or something like that. We both ended up in that room and just instantly had this magnetism towards each other, and thereafter just became creatively and spiritually inseparable. So we started initially working on forming a DAO together, which is a decentralized autonomous organization, which, as many people may or may not know, is essentially, a creative organization that's focused around the blockchain. But then, of course, because we're both individual artists, we just started creating as well, individually and collaboratively over time. So I knew already then that Sam had, spoken about this mixed media project that she had been feeling rising through her, creating, gathering ideas for. But I also got to witness throughout the course of this past year many different, aspects of that starting to come into place creatively within herself, but then also just technically and logistically in terms of different things that became capable in the technology, in Web3, etc. So during that time, I also had already formed a Web3 company with my co-founder that's called New World Nomads. So it was actually with my co-founder that I ended up in the room that Sam and I met.
Wow.
And then thereafter, as Sam continued to develop her project, she started asking for collaboration and consultation from my Web3 company, because our whole focus is to serve different artists like Samantha, or small companies or larger scale companies that have these seemingly vast and sometimes complex to translate concepts, and using Web3 and emerging technology to be able to find the container for them. So Sam already had so much of her own research. She teaches Web3 workshops and knows so much about the space. But there's always different nuances in terms of, pricing things, where the market is in that moment, how different formats for different drops need to be arranged in order to have the longevity or the success of a project. So that's what we came on to do as a consultation sort of creative force in her life for Rose Riot.
Thank you. That's very insightful, because Web3 is filled with challenges, but challenges in the whole artistical process of creation is both a wall to surpass, but also a gateway to a selection of people that create and they can profit from. So it's an opportunity to vault an obstacle and become an elite. And so this is maybe what actually drives more to know that if the challenges are there, then there is value behind them. Verse, I am right on your YouTube channel, Sam, but we can look up anything you want.
I would like to hear some music. If everyone's up for a little music break, I think maybe one of Sam's tracks.
I think that playing my most recent song, Words Spoken, that's the new single from Rose Riot, and that's both on YouTube and Spotify, Words Spoken.
Evan, I just wanted to say I really love the way that you described that something can be either a wall or a gateway. That's super, super powerful for describing, everything that I think a lot of us are experiencing about Web3 right now. So thank you for that, because I think it's helpful for people if they feel like they're hitting that wall, just to know that there is like a gateway within that wall, but it's just about really finding exactly where that is for you.
Exactly. Which is why I think the way that we're all doing it through creativity and the love of music, that's the doorway and the bridge at the same time, right? So they've got the doorway and the bridge to this world as well.
Yeah.
And they can always return back. A bridge is a two-way, right? So it's not like they're going to get stuck and they're going to be by themselves or anything like that. Music unifies people anyway. So
Yes.
I love the clicks.
Yeah. That's my poetry background.
I love it.
Okay, so I can hear the song. This is the song, and if you want to share the screen, this is the visualizer, and in the NFT, it comes with a full like art piece. That is.
Compensated, but you know I waited. Compensated, but you know I waited. Step inside the room, you know you can have this butt naked. All of that glory inside this pussy, you know you can't fake it. Let's take a moment and recognize this bitch you facing. Let's take a moment and recognize this bitch you chasing. This relationship not a game. Trying to play your own game, but that bullshit's a shame. Like that you running back. This relationship not a game. Trying to play your own games, but that bullshit's a shame. Like that you running back. This is the emotions we're feeling inside. Sometimes we're dying and quiet about it. Are you feeling about it? Are you really about it? This is the emotions we're feeling inside. Sometimes we're dying and quiet about it. Are you feeling about it? Are you really about it? Really about it. Let's take a moment. Let's take a breather. You know you can own it. Let's try to deceive her. I'm still a believer, babe. Still a believer, babe. Still a believer. I speak the space and love. You were held and hold. Evolve and transform like clay we mold. A human form. Not too hot, not too cold, but just all these layers of warmth. Running like numbers and cold. You see, this love is unconditional. Transposition keys, write the same melody. We will always be in harmony. We use each word carefully, like circuitry and structure. Honesty and rupture, they break open only for love's expression. Your soul is ring ring. Rather not cold blood, but I respect the game. Expecting no slip into what feels like a lazy dream of your face when peace frees me where I free you when you free me and we turn into something brand new. So we turn into something brand new, babe. This relationship not a game. Trying to play your own games, but that's what shit's a shame. Like that you're running back. This relationship not a game. Trying to play your own games, but that's what shit's a shame. Like that you're running back. This is the emotions we're feeling inside. Sometimes we're dying and quiet about it. Are you feeling about it? Are you really about it? This is the emotions we're feeling inside. Sometimes we're dying and quiet about it. Are you feeling about it? Are you really about it?
Beautiful. Really. You're a hit maker. You're a hit maker, Sam. And you know what? Props to the producer as well. That beat is beautiful.
I know the beat, and it just
Beautiful.
fits so well with what she did. Love
Yeah.
it. I love to visualize it too, babe. That's cool.
I want to see that at a live event. One of our visions is for SoundRig, right? Because we're like, obviously we've been onboarding musicians Web 2 to Web 3. A lot of people that probably would never have an opportunity to perform live. So what we want to do is this time next year, anyone out there that can borrow our idea, but they're not going to do it like we are. So it doesn't matter. You can copy us. But we are going to do a SoundRig Music Awards. And what we want to do is celebrate the artists who launch with us, but all the way from now, let's say till next year, let's say the most popular ones, the best selling ones, same as like MTV or BET do, right? But what we want to do is help and give life-changing experiences to these artists in Africa, India, wherever they may come from, and have a live event where we do, like a normal concert, I guess, and an awards show, and then also stream that on the metaverse so that people who can't attend can, buy tickets and be on the VR glass or something like that. But I want to see that song on stage next year, Sam.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Sign me up.
That would be an awesome party. And that would be an opportunity for all of us to get together, because I feel like all of these connections that are being made, they're all digital still, right? They're all virtual. And it's like, you still need that human touch. I want to be over there. I want to hug you lot. I want to party with you and drink with you and stuff. But you can't do that as we do now. This is as good as it gets. But so I'm definitely up for seeing that and all the artwork. And there'll be so many things that we can do. It'll be so cool.
Yes, I completely agree. And before one of the things that Tiihane and I in Goddessy are working on is event production. And us spiritual sacred bitches are always timing things around the solstices and equinoxes. So we're always about, like 11/11 or the Lionsgate portal. So we're always about bringing us together in celebration for those moments. Because even if we don't have any conscious intention to heal, celebrate, let go, bring in the new, do anything that's cleansing and ushers in new energy, even if we don't go there with that conscious intention, if the organizers have that intention and that frequency is there, when you bring people together, it just magnifies the energy so much. All of that love gets amplified. So and then the in-person, and then also the merger with the metaverse. I mean, we just love that so much, those experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And it matters because, like I said, not everyone can afford to be there or get there. But even by supporting an artist and buying their tunes from SoundRig, we will, because of the blockchain, right, we'll be able to support them and maybe like give them heavily discounted token gated tickets to the event where they can party with us.
Yeah.
Same as what they're doing at New York, NYC, NFT LES, basically, yeah. It's like a lot of people representing there from the Cardano community, but also the other blockchains. And I'm not know if you've been watching it, but like they've been putting snippets on Twitter, and it looks like so much fun. I'm so jealous I can't be there. But it is what it is. Are you guys anywhere near New York?
We're on the other side of the country.
I thought so. Yeah, I wasn't sure about Tiihane.
Yeah, I was gonna go, but I didn't actually end up going this year. And also, I feel like, luckily for us, there are so many NFT related events in the States. It's trickier for people outside of the States, which is why, I spent obviously 10 years in Kenya. I spent a lot of time in Ghana. A lot of my community are in places in the world where it's considered developing countries. So there aren't access to these kinds of events. When you're in the States, you can almost feel like, oh, I'll catch that one the next time, so it's easier for us to say, but we're so blessed to be in such close proximity to these things. And we hope to see more of that available in other parts of the world. So it's cool to also hear you, talking about having some focus on that as well.
Well, on that point, I'm sorry, Evan, we will come back to you so you can ask more questions, but I just wanted to drop this little bit of alpha, I guess. So speaking of Ghana and speaking of the energy and helping people over there, I don't know if you've heard of Big Girls Rise.
Yeah, I have.
You have?
Yeah.
I had a meeting with them today.
Nice.
And I think it was Emmanuel and Abigail,
Nice.
I believe, the main girl. And so we are going to work together officially in supporting girls from Ghana in getting into the music industry, because obviously there's no opportunities there. We have already an artist called Asa Africa in Accra, and he's building an IT center, but that might not happen so soon. So what we're thinking is we're going to work with existing studios, offer them a deal, ask them to be very nice, and allow the girls who are already trying to get into music and the ones that know that they have the talent. We will obviously support the girls, the undiscovered talent, right, at some point. But right now it's about leading by example, like getting the girls who are already in the music scene to show the next generation that it's possible. And because they already have music, we can help them record extra content, exclusive content for their tunes. And then, and that's it. Do kind of a revenue share with the studio so they don't lose out, but they also don't charge the girls up front. And anyway, I was super pumped today. It was supposed to be a 1 hour meeting. I think it was almost 2 hours, and we were just hitting it off. And yeah, so I'm very happy to announce that today that we are going to be officially partnering with Girls Stand Up and supporting all the girls that they're going to be bringing through to get on the music, get the music careers going, and like, yeah, beautiful.
That's amazing. I'm really excited to hear about that. I'll send you also some magnificent artists they have really big, amazing, loyal followings already, but they're at that perfect demographic of what you're talking about, where they just, they've kind of hit that glass ceiling of what you can do as an independent artist, but they have all of these people that are rocking with them and they have amazing content out and all of that. I think that would be an incredibly powerful thing to do. I have many things I can send you and people like that. And also, I don't know if you're thinking of doing anything potentially towards the end of the year there, but my co-founder for New World Nomads, Segnon, he's part Ghanaian, so we will be there. And we'll be doing like a small Web3 sort of something that's slash mixer slash private showcase slash collaborative songwriting workshop and stuff like that for different artists that are in exactly that demographic. So we can talk about that as well, because maybe there's some cool alignment there that we can have with just having SoundRig have a presence as well.
I love it. Wow, the law of attraction is crazy right now.
Yes, it is. It always is. It's just sometimes we remember. And then it works better.
Exactly. Wow. Okay. Evan, sorry. Do you have something you want to ask?
No, Sunny, you do me a favor if you talk instead of me. Come on. It's good for me. Work less. So I would like to give you an intro to talk about the fact that music is a tool that we can use to penetrate the different layers of the mind more easily. Like there are many barriers that human beings out there have that prevent them to accept or listen to our voice, our inner self, and art can be used to penetrate these layers of protections even. And so I think it's important to keep the art updated with the time, because there's many types of art that can stay crystallized in an epoch, like paintings like Renaissance and whatever inspiration they give, retro styled, but especially in the means of distribution and targeting the audience, we need to keep up with the time. Otherwise, I would say that the art might become less effective, but maybe it's not the case. It's just that many artists feel the drive to really have an impact, right? So how do you feel that this project is influenced by the current state of the industry rather than, I mean, how do you adapt, and how do you feel that the art of yours also changes because of that?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit, and I also know Tiihane would have an amazing answer to this question too. I would say the first thing I think of when you ask that question is just like everyone's tired of the bullshit. Like everyone can see it from a million miles away. I don't care what level of consciousness you're on, like it stinks. And everyone knows it. And so it's Web3 has started to provide the answer. And now it's just a matter of exactly platforms like SoundRig that are coming along and like clearing the way with integrity to help artists familiarize themselves inside of this like Wild West setting. Because I think that even people who are like really stuck in the way, like, I don't know, just I would just say stuck. Even people who are really stuck right now, just kind of like dense and stuck. When they hear something new, or when they feel something new, or when they see something new, it ignites something in you. And you could maybe hate it, or you could love it, or you could not know what to do with it. But either way, it gets you, as opposed to hearing the same thing or seeing the same thing or being fed the same thing, and it just feeds the same programming, the same programming, the same programming. So when we get to feel something new, no matter what our charge is around it, positive or negative, neutral, it does something inside of us that lights us up. And I think that we're all craving something new, something new. I mean, even that's what that song is about, the word spoken. It's like about it's for spring, right? So spring is about rebirth, and it's about the end of a relationship and transforming it, like recognizing that the love doesn't go away, but I can transform that love into something new. So it's just like people want that right now. So I see that as one of the most like kind of like from the outside looking in, like one of the most like obviously exciting things about Web3, and one thing that it's already like really triggering through culture.
I think that in an interesting way, everything having to do with Web3 is also just another version of everything we've experienced in creative industries before Web3. But right now with Web3, we have different potentiality, and yet we also have a lot of the same mindset. So for me, one of the trickiest things that we find is it's normal in humanity, as we know, you get an opportunity to do something new and you can bring your same old habits to that new thing. So in Web3, even though we have all of this excitement and passion for people trying things in new ways, and we have now these different, financial support systems that can actually be empowering artists, and we have direct one-to-one opportunities between creators and consumers. For me, the thing that I see that is the biggest challenge is not allowing your own inner capitalist to kind of come and corrupt all of these opportunities that you have as an artist and a creator. And Evan, you're an artist, so you know this as well, right? There are so many of us that are individual artists that are then also creating these platforms. And we see, just like people who start startups thinking that they're going to exit their old corporate life and leave their old jobs behind, and then they end up slave driving themselves, making less money than they made in the other corrupt system, but they've just created a corrupt system for themselves that they're now entangled in again. So I think that where I'm seeing it done in really beautiful examples, for instance, is, there's an artist called Latasha, who's one of the most successful artists on the blockchain. She's a female hip hop artist, and she is a really beautiful template for someone who has truly gone her own way with her NFT and Web3 experience. Anytime that she could have gone in more predictable movements, she again just wanted to keep it about the art that was meaningful for her, the connection that she had with her community. She's worked a lot with Segnon, who's my co-founder as well for our company. She's one example. There are many. I would say the examples of people that are, that will not be named, but that are more sort of, trapping themselves in Web 2 intentions are those that aren't necessarily understanding that this is an opportunity to build something holistic. So they're excited about the financial opportunity, or they're saying they're excited about the sovereignty, but they're not recognizing that truly having sovereignty as a creative is a genuinely 360 experience. So you have to be completely willing to be accountable for mistakes that you make, for plans that you make. And then, like Sam said, a lot of us will get really enticed by these shiny carrots of different platforms that come along that aren't as wonderful or ethical as SoundRig. There can be these other people that are starting to move into the space, or people who say, hey, I've had this success over here. Let me be your XYZ representative, manager, distributor, whatever it is. And we get excited because as artists, we think, oh, thank God, I'm not going to have to do everything myself. So I'm really in that middle space where I do believe that as an artist, you shouldn't have to do everything yourself. But I also believe that you need to be aware of everything. And a lot of times artists can take their eyes off of that. They'll say, I'm not really good with numbers. I don't want to know. You just make the wallet, and then I'll just tap in and out when I'm there to get my payments. And then that obviously ends up badly for them, or the smart contracts that they don't want to look into, or whatever it is. So I feel that where I'm seeing the beautiful opportunity is that we have all of these pieces available. And like Sam said, the Wild West part of it is that there isn't this easy chronology for artists and creatives to follow. But that's also part of the opportunity, because you get to make your own system. But in order to make your own system, you really have to know, what am I here for? What's my temperament like? What works for me? Where are my strengths? Like, what am I actually happy to show up and monitor and be the manager of? And where do I really actually have a lot of weaknesses where maybe I miss things or I slack on that? I don't have good ideas in that area. And if you don't find yet a platform that's like SoundRig, it's needing to find those individual collaborators that you can create with. And then I think even still, whenever you're collaborating, whether if it's with a platform or individuals, like Sam is with both, you know, she has individual people that she works with, and then she also has these different sort of collective entities. She's still completely aware that it's her sovereignty at the end of the day that has to keep driving that project forward. So I think the opportunities are beautiful. I do agree with Sam that people are getting really excited to see, you know, how much is possible. But I also think that we can get really numbed out and just adapt really quickly to possibilities. So a lot of what I'm seeing built in Web3 is just like a mimic of Web2. And I would love to see more people push and stretch that so that we actually build something new and different as artists and platforms.
Yeah, I will not second that. I don't know if you call third that or whatever, but I'm going to top up that because, okay, when I first thought of SoundRig, well, not me and my friend, but I kind of pushed at it and he kind of like ventured off. But it was in 2011, and even back then I was like, everything's sounding the same and no one's getting opportunities. It's a closed world, right? And you're only let in by the people who think that they can make money off you, or like if you're marketable, right? And I remember back then we didn't get the money because we didn't know what we were doing. Essentially, you know, like, we didn't know that you would need to be a genius like Charles Hoskinson or Vitalik Buterin or Gavin Woods of the world to get a blockchain, you know, existing, right? So anyway, but it's always been there for me that artists need to be given self-determination. They need that control over their lives. Because first of all, they need to know whether they want to do it or not. If it's just a hobby or a passion, or if it's really something they feel that they are, which is a musician or a singer or artist, right? And a lot of them, before they even find out, are given an opportunity to, they kind of kick to the curb. One comment by one person can destroy someone's life, right? It's that easy. So imagine how it is now for people seeing all this other stuff happening, the streaming, they're not getting any stream, they're not earning any money, it's just horrible. But they don't know, or they're not, maybe they're ignorant, I don't know, but the algorithms are not meant to play their songs. I mean, there was an article I read a little while ago, it's on our Twitter, it's like 34 million streams have been played 0 times, like never. Haven't even come up on the streaming sites. And it just goes to show that the music that's being played the most, or the most popular, that gets played even more. And it's just like, it's all one-sided. So how is it possible, even if it's someone from, say, London or New York or something, who's an independent artist, relatively known, getting out there, not even getting that many streams, and even when they do, they're getting paid only a couple of $100 for hundreds of thousands of streams. What's it going to be like for someone coming from South America or Africa or India or anywhere, right? It's just, so my vision was always that instead of focusing on the small amount that the whole industry focuses on, why don't we flip that on his head and concentrate on the millions of people that need the opportunity and are not given it, right? But then it comes down to, okay, like how do they get onto Web3? So I don't know if you know, Tiihane, but I created this thing called Agent Manager because I was like, I can't be everywhere in the world. I don't know every language in the world. I don't know every neighborhood. Like, how am I going to find the talent? So like, let's leave it up to the artists that we on board, allow them to open the opportunity up for themselves, or maybe a friend who wants to be in the music industry. But the idea is you're a talent scout first, and then you find the talent, and then you help onboard them. And there's an opportunity there in the revenue where, because there's an 80-20 split between SoundRig and the artist, right? So that's another flip on the head as well, because in the industry you only get 20% if you're lucky, or 30. So it's an 80-20 split, 20% just to keep the operations going for SoundRig's. And then I was like, okay, if that artist doesn't know about Web3, which more than likely they won't because they're coming from Web2, the artists that I've taught everything, I help them with the wallet, I help them with the metadata, I help them with getting accustomed to the Web3 life, let's say, they can now teach other artists in their neighborhood, in their city, and onboard them. And then and then they deserve a little revenues, cut of the revenue from that artist, right? But then if the artist says, you know what, I like this, I want to know about this, we will say to them, go. You can have that 80%. If you want to know, you can have it. But what I've learned since last year is that a lot of artists actually just want to make music. They're not really interested. They, like you were saying, right? They just want to collect their money and make their music and be out there on all platforms. Well, then that means that they'll always have someone to look after them and do that work for them. But if they are interested, then we say to the agent managers, look, you helped them in the first one. Now they're on their own because they want to be. And every agent manager that we're onboarding, I told Sam as well, it makes sense to everyone, right? It's just like, yeah, of course, because they deserve it. If they want to work for it and they want to get involved properly and dive in, they can do that. And I think that's how it should be. Like you said, it has to be holistic, and you can't have old world thinking and habits and greed coming into a space which was built to counteract that in the first place. It was meant to get away from that, and there's people bringing that into it. And they may survive, they may not. But the point is, the people who are doing it for real and the ones that are really doing it to help people, we're going to survive, because at the end of the day, we're not doing it for profit. The profit may come, right? The rewards will come anyway, because we're doing what's right. That's why we're going to survive, I believe.
That is so powerful, honestly. I think everything that you've described in terms of the mentality and the functionality is exactly what is needed as well. I'm so excited. I'm really excited to see Rose Riot in collaboration with you guys, and just to see in general, the different ways that you work with artists. I think a lot of people forget that, like, my whole theory about the reason that we're in the mess of the music industry as we are is that a lot of people forget that, to me, the music industry must have started during the days when liquor was illegal. So people were bootlegging, and there were these secret, like pubs, places where people would go to drink. And during at those places, people would also play music. So all the musicians of the time were also then managed by the people that were, dealing and wheeling and dealing all of the illegal substances. And that's why I think that so much of the industry was built on the foundation of, crooks and sort of this very devious nature that really is...
We're all rebels, basically.
Yeah.
We are all rebels.
The outlaws and the outcasts, and just being taken advantage of in that sort of capacity, which obviously has given some people the possibility to make tons of incredible money, but also a lot of times with so many pitfalls and no protection and everything else. So the fact that you're wanting to build something that has a layer of support, but also does encourage the artist to take on as much accountability as they're willing to have is really powerful. I'm excited.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for that. I do appreciate you understanding and getting it completely as well. And that is resonating with you. That's beautiful. Yeah. And you know what? You were talking about like the speakeasy bars, right? That's what they were called. Because when I was struggling for the word when I was listening to word spoken, sorry. And I was just like, that's what I was trying to look for. It was like it's the modern speakeasy type vibe, right? It was, that hit it on the head for me.
I love that.
Yeah. And now we just need, instead of the beer, I'd rather have a whiskey now on the rocks.
Live your dreams, Sonny.
I'm born and bred in UK, aren't I? And I'm also Punjabi as well. They're bloody big drinkers as well, so I can't escape it. But I'm living a much healthier lifestyle now that I have a missus and a baby, so it's all good.
I love it. It's all about that balance, right?
Yeah. When you said about rebels, I was a naughty boy when I was growing up, so it took me a long time. But it takes a strong woman, right, to hold you down like that.
It does. Yes, it does. It does. And I think, just to get like a little bit meta and esoteric for a moment, I think that what Sam and I relate about a lot, and that we sort of talk on and that we touch on in our art and our collaborations as well, and why we named our DAO Goddessy, is not because we think that, feminine energy is inherently better in any way than masculine energy, but more that we're in this collective experience right now where there's a layer of feminine consciousness, mindfulness, awareness, presence, and care that's coming back into, that very male dominated capitalism that we've had. No one's saying that capitalism innately is a negative thing. It's beautiful to have a system of trade and exchange and value. It's just to add some actual ethical values to that come a little bit from, the kind of woman that'll hold you down and say, listen, have your beer, have some fun, but also, like like stay inside yourself.
Stupid.
You are. Yeah. So I think on a collective level, we're also really going through that. And it's why I'm very passionate about seeing as many female voices and artists in Web3 as well, so that we actually can shape a new space and not just recreate the same kind of environment that was shaped by women kind of vying to have their voice, but not actually being given that platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the system that's been in place was all man-made anyway, right? After, and it was when women didn't really have that many rights anyway. So it's run its course, I feel, and it needs to be the yin and yang, right? It needs to be both working together in harmony, and that's how it should always have been. But they've had. When I say they, I mean pretty much the whole world, right? Everyone's slightly guilty of it, but there are people who are more perpetrators than the others, and like they're the ones that are pretty much at the top of the world at the moment. And yeah, I'm not saying that they've done anything overly wrong in the sense that they didn't know any better. They were brought up by people who didn't know any better, and it goes on, right? But now that we're coming to a place of real consciousness and everyone knows, you can't lie about it. You can't even ignore it or hide behind it. It's just like, man, I see your bullshit, then fuck off, right? You can't do that, right? It's just like, it's got to a point where you got to stop kidding yourself, because the next generation ain't seeing it and they're not buying it, right? And you've all but corrupted the world and almost destroyed it. But this is now the crux. I feel that we're at a place where there's enough people flipping to the other side, even if they were maybe a bit wrong or naughty or whatever, but they might even be, I don't know, ignoring it, the voice in the back of their head, but it's getting louder and it's getting louder, and more people are turning to the right way of life. Just be decent, right? And I think that, yeah, if more of us stick with this and we utilize Web3 for what it is and what it should be, and not let the people corrupt it as well, then we're basically on an even kill. And then it will always be yin and yang. There'll always be the bad and there will always be the good, right? We're never going to get rid of it, but just balance it out a bit.
Yes. Very much so.
Evan, what do you think?
I think that it's a big mess, because there is a duality of art as something that needs money, and money as something that needs to be criticized for its use. So art acts on money, but money also acts on art. And also we have the problem that we need to create art independently from how it's received. We need to be independent with that and be driven by ourselves, be confident that what we're doing is valuable per se. And that goes against, though, the necessity of the art to be also resonating with a large audience. Otherwise, it's not possible to continue doing it. So it's a mess. But with the right organization, as Sunny was saying, with managers that are ethically involved and all organized, with the concept that, as Tiihane was saying, capitalism can be a corrupted entity, but in capitalism as well, we can have profit coming from ethical approaches, because when the market requires ethical approaches, then the money flows in the ethical companies. So it's important to understand that when capitalism starts becoming heavy on us, it's when it's important to invest on ethical approaches and more moral companies that solve problems in different ways. The risk, though, is that this is a new thing, right? So new things are scary, and the first one to get involved are more likely to benefit from it. But they also are pioneers, like Web3 is pioneering into this new dimension. So.
And tying that back into the conversation of divine feminine consciousness, I think that one thing that is natural for, and again, doesn't have to do with gender. I hope that we all know that when we say masculine and feminine energies, we all have those energies inside of
Yeah.
us, and it's our responsibility to cultivate and balance those energies inside of us. But I think it is fair and true to say that divine feminine consciousness is necessarily tied with the planet and therefore what circulates. It's just circulation. And so it doesn't get caught up with greed or storing things, or I need to have this because of a lack of trust mentality, or it has to come in the form of money instead of the many other forms of abundance, or that abundance takes shape as, right? But divine feminine consciousness helps the energy circulate. And I think that helps us avoid those pitfalls into greed. And what was the last thing that you just said too? Because that was I wanted to comment on that too. Well,
Evan?
anyway, we'll come back to it.
I mean, no, I was into what he was saying, then I got into what you were saying, and I was like, okay, yeah, I forgot as well.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It flows.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that every business from now on should endeavor to be a social impact startup or social impact on enterprise, right? So it's for profit. Obviously, it's going to be for profit because that's how you need to feed yourself, your staff, and everyone, right? And anyone that's working for you, and to keep the machine going. But there should always be a little bit that goes back into reinvesting for, for the sake of people, yeah, and for the harmony and for the planet. And so the people and the planet, there's two different things that need to be taken care of at the same time. Not everyone can focus on everything, but if enough businesses out there were focusing on the little things, I'm telling you, a lot of the shit that's wrong at this time will be slowly but surely sorted out. And like the world is resilient, it's not gonna die because of like the greenhouse gases now. But if we start doing little bits now, then that will happen. But until corporations don't do that and don't even recognize it first, then it's never going to happen. But us, like I said before, enough of us bringing the energy around will tip the balance, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think that people are becoming more and more aware, and this will only increase. The sensitivity will only increase. This number of people who are energetically aligned and able to feel with their heart instead of just think with their mind, is this a good company, but can actually feel the integrity of a company. That is going to be the marker of what people invest in, what people want to spend their time with, what people want to see in this world. And I think a lot of people think that I have a very optimistic way of looking at life, and I don't even agree with this. I really feel that this is just a matter of like math and time. Like I really do feel the attunement, and I feel every day in my life, and I know it's also law of attraction, so I see people who reflect my values. But beyond that, I see people who are not calling it energy, who don't say it's they're feeling with their heart, but I can feel them feeling with their heart. Like that awareness is expanding. And I think that that's how people are going to make their decisions moving forward, and how they buy their products and how they relate. And it takes time, but I feel inevitable.
Yeah, definitely.
And I do remember what I was going to say. You made a comment, Evan, about kind of it being the Wild West and being pioneers, and we were talking about divine feminine consciousness, and that's another reason Tiihane was saying I totally agree with, like onboarding women, onboarding people of color, onboarding people from developing countries, onboarding people who have in any way been systematically locked out of financial, education, resources, opportunities. Those are the people that I want to spend my time onboarding. And I think a lot of people feel that same way, and I think that will truly make a difference, because I mean it's so great to be working in teams with people who have that consciousness inside of themselves, no matter their gender or orientation or anything. But it's also so necessary to have people of all people all representing. And I think that we realize that now, that we can't just like sub in for that we actually have to have that. So I think that consciousness is growing more and more too.
Yeah, and I think that what's really, really important to speak to as well, and that is, again, when you, the deeper you get into understanding the systemic, just terror that we've experienced as human beings, I think that the difference I hope to see in Web3, and that I certainly stand with and beside, and the people and initiatives that I work with, is not onboarding people in the way in which you think they should be onboarded. because that is yet another symptom of the systemic corruption that we've had, where when people are given opportunities for education or, forwarding in life, whether that's again through, career or finance or whatever it is, we feel, and when I say we, I say because, I'm a mixed race person, so I'm partly from that Western white mentality just as much as the other half of me is from a very indigenous and colonized background. So I think that because I was educated in the West, because I was given the privilege of having, light skin, because I was given the privileges of being in proximity to a lot of other things that people are blocked away from, I'm aware that then this layer of education that many of us don't get, which I think I only got from spending 10 years in, Kenya and doing so much work in other parts of Africa, is that you may think that you're providing invitations and opportunities to people by giving them tools and resources and invitations, but oftentimes you're actually just saying, hey, do you just want to come participate in this thing that I built, that we think would be better for you, rather than saying, hey, I would love to give you platform, amplify your voice, hear what's actually real for you. What do you think, being the person that's actually living in the environment you're living in, that's participated in your industry or lack of industry in your location? What do you think would actually help? What do you think are the tools and resources that are needed? Instead of having that, colonial or savior mentality of us thinking, oh, well, we know what's best. Here it is, plug into this. So I'm very hopeful again, and very adamant whenever I work with people that awareness is tied into it, because that is the huge opportunity that we have with Web3, is not just, oh, great, let's make sure that we have, people of color doing world building for this metaverse, but actually, are they actually being invited to design what this world is like and the functionality of it, and not just participating as this seemingly empowered creator, but that doesn't actually get to shape the world that they're building,
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I wanted to drop. So I was going to say something, but maybe it's a bit too soon. It's just too alpha. So I'm not going to do it now. But we're going to meet again, Tiihane, and then I'll explain to you. Or I'll do it off camera. But there's something I'm working on that is exactly that.
Amazing.
It's about, like I said earlier, self-determination, about giving them the skills that they need to actually get on board properly, not just feeding them an opportunity and say, here, become a music artist. It's not about that. You need to go much deeper. And it needs to be them doing it for themselves, for the next generation. You can't just be expecting them to have handouts, right, for the rest of their lives. They need to take that control themselves. And so, yeah, I'm very
Yeah,
happy.
and we need to learn from, like my family is from Hawaii. Every time I go back to the island, as most people know, islands that are very, very successful as destination locations also have so much poverty and a lot of disaster on the islands. And whenever I see people in my, in my family or in my local environment, like where I went to elementary school, and I see that most of them rely on tourism in order to support themselves. And then I wonder, like, how could I use Web3 or the opportunities in the blockchain to be able to empower, these people? I recognize also that, like you're saying, giving tools and resources out is just as important as then also asking, can you teach us what is needed here so that we can actually work together in that sharing of resources? Like I share with you resources that you don't have access to, and you share with me the resource of your awareness of being this sort of citizen journalist of what it's like to actually live in your environment. And then that will help me also build something that's more successful for myself as well. So it really does become like a win-win in that way. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm just wondering how many we can help now. That's what I'm thinking. What I'm excited for, rather, is looking into the near future and thinking, like, if there's enough of us that are doing this in our different respects, and our different fields, I'm really excited to see the impact that's going to be made in the next few years.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes, me too. And I think that's what Sam's saying in terms of that inevitable collective consciousness shift, that true, it's maybe not going as fast as many of us would like, because we feel like we're looking at the time that's left available on Earth with our resources and a lot of things that look dire and scary. And then we're looking at the amount of people that would need to change. And we're like, does that math add up? How's it? Is this going to work out here? But I think that we are seeing now more than ever so many people in power that might have had a history of being completely unconcerned with any sort of philanthropic or community-focused work, all of a sudden taking these turns and saying, oh my gosh, I realize I need to, in my own way, support actually being in this 360 holistic kind of framework of life. So it is exciting to see, even in just a couple of years, like you're saying, how much more diverse and capable will this community be.
I love roping. I used to work as a special education teacher for adults on the autism spectrum, and that expanded my brain and heart and soul and mind so much. And one of the things that it expanded is learning to basically just speak everyone's individual language. And then once I was able to tune in, tap in, to hear them, I was like, oh, every human is actually really brilliant. It's just a matter of like resourcing their brilliance, figuring out their brilliance, seeing it, honoring it, and figuring out how to apply it. And I think that applies as well to all different kinds of diversity. It's like we all have these pieces to this giant puzzle on this earth. And some of us right now have like more power with fewer pieces and think that we know what's best for the rest of the earth, right? But if everyone just like had their piece and they're like, actually, this is brilliant for right here in this geopolitical, social, blah, 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 blah. This is the thing that's brilliant, not that. And so I think that we'll just start to, it'll be self-evident when people get this technology. Like, I remember seeing some of the, some music and artwork that was coming out of Ghana, Kenya, even like the UK and stuff, which isn't like by any means a developing country, but in terms of like art and music, hasn't quite like hit as hard in some genres as like say American audiences. But in any case, what I was not surprised about, but so excited to see was I was like, of course this art and music is fucking slamming. It always has been. It's just that we haven't seen it because there hasn't been the technology to see it, and these communities haven't had the technology to make it. But this is slamming, and it's changing the culture of music globally. You know what I mean? So I think that it's going to be self-evident as we work together and people and regions get more access and that collaborative component.
Yeah. I'm a little bit concerned of one thing though, because I keep seeing in the media emerging markets. That's what the music industry are calling it, right? Specifically, that we know now like 30% rise in music from emerging markets. And first of all, these are people, they were always there. You just never gave a shit about them before. Only because they're getting popular now, you're going to go and do the same thing you've done over here, over there, right? And I feel like it's a little bit of a race against time, because these people need money, and they see the Western world and they want the same fame and the same riches. Fair enough, of course, right? But I really don't want them to get shafted at the same time because of people taking advantage of them, just dangling a golden carrot, and then the same thing's going to happen. And I feel like we need to do as much as we can to not get to them before, but at least educate them before that happens. Like what I want artists to do is use SoundRig as just one arrow in their quiver. It's not the be all and end all. It never will be, and we're never going to replace the music industry either. It's ridiculous to think that. But what if we were to engage with them before they got popular and before they got signed? Because they're really talented. They will rise. But by the time they get to that stage, they know what the contract looks like. They know what freedom looks like, autonomy looks like, self-determination looks like. So if somebody comes to them and says, we'll give you 20%, they'll be like, well, why? I'm already popular, people already love me, and I can do just as well. And you can shove that, a couple of $100,000 up your ass, basically, because I'm going to make that anyway over here. And I'm going to get more of it. And I'm actually my own person. I'm not, basically ruled by you. And that's what I'm really concentrating on, and I think it will happen organically anyway, because you can feel it, right? Every time we talk to someone else, they just get it. And so it's now about getting the tech built so that we can scale up, basically, and get it out and get it into their hands as soon as possible. Basically, that's what I'm currently working on right now.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it can't come quick enough, basically. So, anyone out there, Rihanna, possibly, we need some really, really nice, lovely people that have come from the bottom to the top, that have seen it, that know what it's like to come from nothing, absolutely smash it, and come and join us, and then we can make wonderful things happen, right? But if you don't, we're gonna do it anyway, baby. We're gonna do it anyway. So it just take us a little bit longer. That's it.
I would like to ask something about spirituality because we're talking about connection between people and the importance to regulate the environment also based on what we need spiritually rather than just what we need materialistically. So the concrete world is very important for us, but without the spiritual aspect, we lose ourselves. So um, do you have a specific way that you see it, like spiritually speaking? Can you describe it personally? Do you align with a specific creed or a current that, or you have your own? Please tell us more about it.
I would say that I think there's a million. No, let me rephrase that. There are infinite ways to get back to the self. I believe that my understanding is whatever term we use, God, source, energy, Sophia, Christ consciousness, it is the source of all life. It is the source of all love. And so any spiritual map is just a map to get back to that. It's a map to realize that, to remember that. And then once you also realize that, you recognize that you are an extension of it. You are it. If there's only one thing, if there's only one source, and we are all of it, we are it. And so I love people's maps back to themselves. Sometimes do I think people's maps back to themselves get caught up in a lot of religious power play bullshit? Yup. But I think whatever people need in that lifetime to get to the place of embodying their divine connection, I'm about. For me, and I also think too, it's like different for, like what have we built up over many, many lifetimes? Like over many lifetimes I have studied Tantra. Over many lifetimes I've studied, different things that just like when I tap into them this lifetime, it's like, oh yeah, like I remember that, I download that. So I think there are things that we can practice and we build it up over a long time and our soul has that memory and it can just kind of like help expedite the process for us. But I think that like what I see a lot of intuitives and healers and or I love and don't like that term because we're always all healing ourselves. People can only like assist us in getting to that gateway. But people who create healing opportunities and T and I both do different work in the realms of like guided meditation and sound baths and tarot and things like that. When people can just like engage astrology or numerology or other great examples that we don't really think of them as spiritual maps, but they still are. They're just maps, right, to help us get to know ourselves. And kind of like what I was saying earlier with like art and music is this and color has a frequency and this is a language and this is a language. The more languages we can speak, the more effective we are at helping that person connect with their inner being, connect with their God essence. So I like to speak as many languages as I can. Why not, But I do know, for me personally, it all just comes down to like quieting the mind and meditation, and then everything will eventually come. If you're going to do one thing or practice one thing, everything will eventually come. You will find your own unique spiritual blueprint and map if you are just quiet long enough with yourself to listen. That's my feel.
This sounds very exciting because it gives power to the individuals and full freedom and value to the activities that we do daily. We reflect on ourselves and they have meaning, these activities. So I don't know if you want to talk about what happened, the process that led you to prioritize art in your life rather than other interests that I'm sure you have, but art is a very specific one that we have, everyone has some artistical influences in their life, but you and other people like us, maybe, they chose at one point, let's go for it. So do you remember a specific moment or you just slowly became more and more involved?
I mean, I came out of the womb singing and painting. Like
Yeah, I
I
understand.
was in my mama's cave, ready to come out with the umbilical cord. I literally always knew I was a musician and an artist. It was just like coded long before I came out. It was set in stone for me personally. But I know that we're all creative beings, and we all can use art to transmute and alchemize and heal. But for me, it was definitely just like a defined sense of self.
Mm, yeah,
Do
I
you have
would
any
say.
advice? Oh,
No,
Tiihane,
no,
do you
go ahead.
wanna?
Go ahead. I was just going to speak to saying that I believe that's true for Sam.
So Sam, do you have any advice for this particular subject? Because young people are maybe inspired by artists, but they see, as we were talking, the industry is a mess. It's often not a good idea to just jump like that. So, advices, anyone?
Yeah,
Tiihane?
I would
Yeah.
actually, I want to jump in and then I have at 12, I have another call that I need to jump to. So I'm sorry that I will be loving you and leaving you. But I would actually love to speak to this, which is I, like Sam, also feel like I really came out as an artist and a creative being deeply, which so many of us are, right? We know that. Um, I also, though, had a very interesting journey that I'm so grateful that I had because I feel like now I can provide reflection and insight to exactly what you're asking about, which is I grew up around a lot of people that were young, sort of, struggling artists or creatives who were trying to start businesses that, they managed, which is a feat in and of itself. They always managed to keep me fed, even though sometimes it was touch and go, and for us to stay alive, even though also sometimes that was touch and go. But I think that because I saw that, I always had this deep undercurrent in me, even though they, helped me get on scholarship to, one of the best art schools in California. And I was one of the top performers and I got into NYU Tisch, which is a huge art university here. I still always had this deep seated fear and ominous feeling that like I can't survive as an artist or a creative person. And that was a really corrosive force in my life because I didn't have that deep bed of confidence in myself that you need in order to really go out there and take, visionary ideas or feelings or concepts or creative, emotional ideas and put them into the world. So I would sort of do 10 steps forward with a bunch of ideas and energy and then kind of sidestep, walk my way out of it by doing other, jobs or things that I would split my energy between because of my fear for my survival. And that sort of carried over in different seasons in my life where I would have, a season where when 10 years ago, right before I moved to Nairobi, to Kenya, I had all these opportunities to sign with like Sony and Universal and all these different labels. And I was doing, small tours as a young artist. And I'm so glad I didn't sign because it really wasn't for me. I felt like I peered into the music industry at that time and I just thought, oh my God, I'll never survive that. That's it's the way it's set up is not for me and I won't even get to make the music that I want to make.
Yeah.
But then I also went through different eras of my life because of that, where, I learned to work as a creative director. I worked as a fashion designer. I did different things that were around the things that I loved, but not really the things that I loved because I had more belief that that would somehow be something that I could sustain myself with. So the big answer to this question, I think, is if anybody is a creative, like in your heart that what you want to be doing is something creative or art oriented, but you feel like you have no idea how that's possible, I would actually advise start doing work around it that feels like your safe version of that. Like it worked for me. I worked
Yeah.
my way into the confidence of putting myself all the way in the center of what I actually cared about. And then because of, the healing and inner mental health work and everything else that we've touched on in this conversation, I was also able to expand my level of self-worth and the level of my value so that I could step into what I actually wanted to do. But I feel like a lot of people think that if they can't get there immediately and directly, then like, oh, it's just not for me. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not brave enough to do that. And I really don't think that's true. I think everybody has a different process and that you can work your way into enough confidence and you just might have to do it in these stepping stones that make you feel like, you're gradually building into that over time.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think going off from that, very valid point. Because to be fair, like you're always working towards you, right? And just because you don't get it today doesn't mean it's wasted. It's never wasted time, by the way. It's never wasted energy. It's never wasted intent either. It just means that you're not ready, but you're going to stay around, like you said, around your passion. And what you're doing is you're strengthening your character, you're building your resilience, and then you're setting yourself up for success when you are going to be ready. And I think we're kind of lucky because we're in the crux of the older generation, and what's new, right? And what's happened is because of the internet, all good and bad, but people want everything now. They want it instantly, and this instant gratification that the internet has brought is stopping people from learning what life is really about. You're not supposed to want everything every day. I mean straight away. And I think every one of our podcasts I've quoted Gary Vee, but I gotta say, I love the guy because he always speaks the fucking truth, right? And you're not supposed to have it today either. You're supposed to go through the hard knocks, but you're meant to enjoy the process. If you're not enjoying the process, change the process. But you don't expect to get it still today, right? But just change the process so you start enjoying the ride, and then you'll get to where you want to be. And actually, it will happen a lot sooner than you're thinking. But when you're thinking about, I want it today, it's never going to come like that. And if you do try to get it like that, you're going to end up crashing and burning. So that's the one advice I would give to anyone, even older people. They're like people who've not learned, right? So younger, older, if you feel like you're in that situation where you're not getting what you want, change it. You're in the power to do so. It's your life, right? But change it for what you want to do. Just don't expect instant success, but enjoy the process to get to the success. And anyway, success is a journey, right? It's not the end goal. And normally the journey is more important than the success, the result anyway, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. That is.
I want to comment, but I'll let Tiihane.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's the perfect mic drop for me to exit on because I resonate with. I'm just like what he said. Drop the mic. And I just
Beautiful.
wanted to say thank you so much because it's beautiful to be in a space with just like such deeply aligned people that are, like you said, doing this work in their own different respective ways. And I'm really, really excited to see what comes and to collaborate on, I'm sure, many things that we don't even yet know of right now, but I can feel them all
Yeah.
percolating. So thank you
Yep.
for this time and this inspiring conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
looking forward to see you again.
Yes.
I'll see you tomorrow, babe.
That is.
There you go. Awesome. She is awesome.
I know. The
When you
best.
said that to me, I was like, yeah, she's probably just saying it. No, I'm joking. But like, like I knew because of who you are and how we connected that anyone she knows is gonna be the shit. And she was.
Just wait until you get all four of us together. There's four of us starting Goddessy, and we're
Oh, wow.
too much. You can't even handle us right now.
You should start your own podcast. I really do, because seriously,
maybe 2 years from now. I just can't even.
Yeah.
Tiihane just started a podcast though,
Oh really?
with her partner Segnon from New World Nomads.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
So one of us is on it.
an invite to that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I wanted to comment on the last question because it's funny. I agree with everything you said, and I totally identify with what T was saying. But it's funny because I did like the exact opposite. Once I realized that I was like I was a full-time teacher, and I realized that if I didn't make art full-time, I was just gonna die. Like I just couldn't stand it anymore. So I quit, and I just literally have been like bebopping around and figuring it out as an artist for the last, it's been almost 6 years now. And
Yeah.
I think I've worked like maybe a total of 6 months. And otherwise it's just been like, God damn, it's not been easy, but it has been trusting the process. And for me, because we talk about abundance, right? And all the things abundance comes in. And for me as an artist, one of the things that I must be most abundant in is time. And we talked about meditation, we haven't talked about, but for me, inspiration, I can't just like make art, right? Like the inspiration has to come, and there has to be space in order for the inspiration to come. If I'm thinking all the time, if I'm working all the time, the muse might come, but I can't do anything about it then, and then I feel frustrated. Or the muse just doesn't come because there's no spaciousness to listen.
Yeah.
So I knew immediately that like time abundance was one of the most important things in the world to me, and was able to like cultivate my life around, okay, I know more than anything, time abundance and making art, and then let the rest shuffle out. And speaking of law of attraction, it's like I haven't been making a ton of money the last 5 years, but I've manifested amazing houses to stay in for free because people love my work and support me. I've manifested, like whatever I've needed for the last 5-6 years. So I think that like there's so many ways to go about it. And I'm just personally like my Scorpio moon, I'm just like hardcore. I'm like, put me all in, right? But there's just like a million ways because it is all about the process. It's not about the outcome or the destination. And so it's like, you just have to be living in your truth, and persistence and not stopping, and self-belief, because other people probably aren't going to agree with your job to quit your 9 to 5, or probably aren't going to really believe that you can actually make as an artist. You can't depend on other people believing in you. You
No.
really have to know. It has to be an unshakable knowing, beyond a feeling, beyond a belief. It has to be a knowing that you fucking got this. And so just like working on that self-doubt component, I think is one of the most necessary components of being a professional, i.e. able to live off of your art. That's what I would say.
Resonating. I'm just resonating right now. It's just like coming through to me. No, I mean, like everyone has their journey, and I was just gonna say, and you took the words right out of my mouth. They have to live their truth. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. Right? It's just be your truth, and then do the universal thing, which is to just show love. Right? Leave the hate out. Show love. Keep yourself to yourself. Do your thing. Spread the love. That's it. That's all you need to do. And it's amazing how difficult it is for a lot of people. And it's like, again, it's not their fault. It's the system that they've grown up in and the system their parents grew up in, etc., etc. It's just when someone gets the consciousness, are they strong enough to break that cycle so that their next generations don't do that? And if enough people, and this word woke kind of got hijacked because meaning awake means actually see what's happening and consciously make a change, right, for the better. And so I don't like when people say, "Oh, that person just woke," because it's kind of changed the meaning of what being awake really is. And maybe it was done intentionally, I don't know. But it comes down to that, basically. It's just like, as soon as you wake the fuck up and you see that this isn't the way it should have been, you weren't done wrong because your parents were done wrong, etc., etc. Now you're in a power position because you know what the truth is. Are you going to continue down that road, or you're gonna what's that fit? Is it a trout or salmon that goes upstream and just keep? My grandma said this to me when I was a kid once. She goes, "You're like one of those fish. Is it a trout, right?
Salmon.
Salmon, right? Yeah." So she goes, "You're like a salmon. Yeah. Every time you keep going up against the grain, keep hitting your head of the rock, and keep doing it again." And I was just like, but I have to experience it for myself, right? It wasn't malicious. I've always been about love, but I was just kind of like being daring with my own life. And I was like, I can do it. It's my life. I can do what I want, right? But I did a lot of mistakes and a lot of crazy shit. But I was just like, I want to experience everything, everything. But then it got to a point where I was like, I've done it now. I've worn the t-shirt about 50 times. I think it's time. And it all happened at the same time because I met Gigi, basically. I met Gigi at the same time where I was just like, things need to change, and they did. And so, like you said, I haven't had ridiculous. I've had like very little money over the last few years since COVID, especially. Everything's been up and down. It's been a roller coaster. But what's manifested out of it is a beautiful life. I've got a beautiful daughter. I've got Gigi, and I'm now able, in a weird way, to work on my passion, which is SoundRig, and anything else that might come of it. And I'm basically free. I'm sitting in. It's weird to say this, but I'm sitting in my mother-in-law's house in Poland, in the village. I have zero distractions. I'm all about the work now, and things are getting done because of where I am. But it's not being about the money or anything like that. And when it stops being about the money, I think that's when magic starts happening. When it's chasing it, like Biggie says, more. No, he said more money, more problems. That's a different story. But yeah, but when you start chasing it, it starts running away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
yes.
I think I'm good. I'm feeling very bubbly, light and fluffy after this conversation. Evan, you want to add anything, or is this a good time to finish?
This is something I wanted to ask because the energy of ours is kept lower sometimes, but almost a control surface, a method of control that it seems to us sometimes that we are kept at bay by a general effort that sometimes is linked to the media, the negative energy coming from different actors out there that anybody can perceive differently, right? So how much of this goes into your work, that the will to liberate from this particular oppression of one's own energy? Because I know your work also relates to sexuality, and so these are very primordial energy drives, and also meditation goes very deep into our nature, so that there is a connection with this. And I wanted to know more about your perception of this and how you decided to pursue this.
Yeah, great question.
He's very
I'd
good,
say,
isn't he, with his questions?
these questions are amazing. Um, where do I want to start? I would say that, okay, I used to spend more of my time on this, but now I spend less of my time on thinking about and worrying about how people are being traumatized, i.e., if it's through the media or through personal violence or through cultural violence or karmic inheritance, or like there's a million and one ways that we can live out a story of trauma in our lifetime. And I used to be obsessed with being mad about rape and being mad, and of course I still am mad about those things, but now I spend less of my time thinking about that and more of my time being like, okay, well, it is what it is. I know that the messages around sexuality reinforced, stories of shame and guilt and pleasure for other people. And I know the stories around violence that we have all experienced, either individually or culturally or through our parents or through a friend, are happening, and they're impacting our ability to feel, or literally even just physically feel our physical bodies, let alone be present inside of our physical bodies. It's happening, period. It's been happening for a long time. So now I focus most of my energy on just thinking about how the healing can take place most effectively. And I'm so like into past lives and stuff, so I just immediately go there. Like I know that I've been doing like sexual healing work for many lifetimes, and so I am all about getting down to like just the pure core energy of it, beyond the story, beyond how it showed up in this lifetime for you. It showed up. So let's just go to the energy. And for me, I do that a few different ways. I mean, one of which is even just the way I live my life. I'm very like loud and sensual and proud and unapologetic. And I can literally feel sometimes people saying or thinking things like, is she allowed to wear an outfit that sexy? Like, like it's just like my presence can be either sexually triggering or sexually liberating, right? Even just my beingness. But beyond that, my music and my art are literally like coated with energetic healing. I mean, I like everything that comes for me is either through like a direct channel, I'm channeling it, or it's like, a very thoughtful, careful process where it's like interactive, but either way, like however it's coming through from this like vibrational, energetic place of clearing shame, of clearing guilt, of reinstating pleasure, of showing you what pleasure is possible. And I do practice, I'm an active practitioner of sex magic and tantra and things that are just like vibrationally healing for the planet, period. Starting with our own bodies, because our sexual energy is a portal. It's a portal for creation, whether we're creating human life or we're creating healing magic, whatever it is, it's creation. So, I mean, even my like sex is activism, like it's just all of it for me is like the same energetic healing. And it's just like whatever I happen to be doing at that moment is like the shape and name of it. But I know that like sexual healing is one of the reasons that I'm like even here on this planet. Like I'm just so passionate about people reclaiming the pleasure inside their bodies, because you cannot see yourself as a creator, and therefore you cannot make the life that you want for yourself as a creator if your sexual centers are blocked. You can do as much as you can around it. You can get lots of good stuff done around it. But if that sexual center is blocked, you're not going to be creating the life that you want to be creating in this lifetime, or at least not with any also like challenges and slowness and pain and resistance and all these things that arise from that. So yes, it is definitely one of my biggest passions.
Sunny, do you want to?
That makes sense from knowing you, from that perspective. I've never really thought about it, but I do know this as my truth. Growing up, when you like growing up on the streets and you're like, coming from relative poverty, let's say, compared to anywhere else in the world, is still luxury, right? You're like growing up in England, like plenty of privileges that no one gets in Africa. So I know I'm lucky to even be born in the UK, let alone somewhere else, right? But in the UK, there was relative poverty. Grew up there, and you have like certain characters around and naughty, and it's just you grow up with let's just say characters, let's put it that way, right? Some people who might have some bad habits, and then you end up becoming these type of people. You look up to them or whatever. We might kind of call them gangsters, maybe, if you want, or whatever. They were friends of mine. They still are. But one of the things is that I learned about women from them, and they weren't really respectful of women in a sense, but then the women weren't really respectful of themselves. They were also in that world, right? So I learned that, and then I was in that for a long time, and I wasn't really getting it. I wasn't finding true love, and I thought that would be the place where you do it. But the thing is, I was always different to everyone that was around me, and I was blocking that, trying to be like them. But then when I started being myself around them, it was kind of like chalk and cheese, right? And then so it kind of like naturally faded out because I started being my true self rather than. So for me, it was all about love, and that world is a lot about hate. But I was drawn to that because that's what I grew up looking up to, right? So once I had experienced that, and I tried it, and then as I become myself, I was like, this isn't really me, right? And by the grace of the universe, I wasn't shot, I wasn't put in prison, I wasn't, you know what I mean? It's just I got out of it, which was cool. And then when I kind of opened myself up to allowing me to be me, that's when the magic started happening, right? And that must have been when the sexual energy was unblocked or whatever, right? Because, soon after, she came, Ida. She was actually, I would have shown you, but she's been taken away. She was trying to get in. She was crying and saying, "Daddy, daddy, daddy." But yeah, no, that was my truth of it, really. So I understand what you mean. I haven't really ever thought deeply into that, but now I think about it, I was blocking myself for so long and the second that I unblocked, it started healing itself. And I think that's true for most areas of their life, right? Not just sexual energy, but actual love itself. If people who have gone through trauma, they don't know what love is because they never felt it when they were little, and that transpires into horrible things when they're older. And if they are lucky to talk to someone who helps them understand and unblocks that for them, their life can literally start changing overnight just by the energy change inside them, right? And I think more people should be conscious of this of other people. You don't know what other people's pain is and what they've gone through, despite the bullshit that comes out of their mouth, right? Some are even the snobbiest people, or I forgot what the word is, but the people that constantly lie and always trying to be the top person in the room. There's a reason for that, and and it's not a healthy reason either, right? And trying to help them, you can't unless they want to be helped. But there's no good fighting fire with fire. You need to understand that this person is like that because something fucked up happened, and they are now like that. You don't need to respond with fire because that's it. The more love you show to people like that, there's nothing they can do. They can't fight fire with love because it just drowns it out, right? And it doesn't affect you because you're just like, "Look, I don't care. I still love you, bro. It doesn't matter. It's all good." And that's how I've been living my life for the last 10 years. And it's been magical. But before I was just like hard on the streets, you know what I mean? It was just, it wasn't right for me. I was going against my actual energy.
Yeah.
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 I've never really said that out loud. So there you go.
I love that journey.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So, we're talking about the intent because, Sandy, you were saying that at one point you realized that you weren't yourself, but yet you were performing actions and you were doing something, but that translated into a shift. So your intent was dormant and expressed as different set of actions, but there was a direction that you were destined, let's say, to pursue. So here also it interfaces well with art because when we create art, sometimes we can have an intent prior the creation, but also it can happen after we create something that we see what the art was about. And so here are maybe you can tell us what type of process you find yourself more comfortable or more repeated with your work. Like, do you feel that there is an image that you pursue, or do you let it happen? And also in life, if you want to add more.
Is that for me?
Anyone.
Okay. I mean, I wanted the things that I was doing. I wanted to be part of that world. It wasn't like I was drawn into it because I was like, a little kid and they kind of brainwashed me. It wasn't like that. I was chasing that. I wanted to be part of that world, and I enjoyed being in their company. But at the same time, when they were let's just say that they were dealing with someone, whatever you want to think of that, right? there's another way to do it. I always thought, right? There's another way to get what you want without beating the shit out of someone or whatever that the case may be. And so that is what I meant by me going against my grain, because I went along with it to be with my comrades, let's say padres, yeah, my brothers. But at the same time, I knew it wasn't right, and I wouldn't have dealt with it that way. And in that sense, I was young and I was just like, I'm going to go along with it. But it was never my intention to do anything that I didn't want to do. I just did it because I enjoyed being part of that world, and it was like rebellious, and it was so different from being at home, because we grew up. Me and my brother grew up with an alcoholic dad, right? So, and mom did the job of the dad and the mom, and he was non-existent. He wasn't a violent drunk. He was just non there. He wasn't there, and it was just shit growing up. So the only thing that was left to do was go out on the street and just be with the same people who also went through the same thing, right? But me, I think my soul was always been about other people. That's why when I became a concierge in a hotel, it was so natural for me, because I was just helping people and I was enjoying doing so, and I was loving it. I enjoyed that career. And if I had found that when I was 17, 18, I would have done that all my life. I'll be honest with you. But that came to me later. And I feel that I went through that as a part of the journey, to know what it's like to be on both sides of the thing. Because I understand the psychology of these people now, right? I understand the hate and all of these things that I've said to you today. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't gone through that with them. And really, like, normally I used to be quiet and I used to just sit back and listen to all the drama unfolding, but be part of the gang at the same time. And I was just literally like learning from them, learning from everyone, and going deeper though. I felt what they were feeling. This is something I've always had a knack for. I have an ability to feel what, like Sam, I'm sure you're the same, Evan, as well. Like, you feel the other person's pain when they're in pain. You feel, and you can sympathize with them, empathize, right? And that's been a very strong feeling inside, which I ignored for a long, long time. And I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to, maybe that's weak or whatever, right? So in that sense, I was going against it, but I was never going for it because I didn't want to. I definitely wanted to be in that world when I was younger. And actually, my uncle once said to me, he's like, "Oh, fuck it, actually, I shouldn't have shown you Goodfellas at age 10. Like, because when I want to feel like Godfather with my uncle and he's having a beer and stuff, right? And I'm just there sitting, watching the Godfather at the age of 8. What else do you think is going to happen, right? It's just like, it just gets inside you and you want to be part of that world.
Yeah.
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 I hope that answered your question. I don't know if I veered off or whatever.
It always does. So Sam, if you want to compare it to the artistical process of intent and destiny, almost, of like the creation of art, I can relate to this. Like, I create with both a goal, but also letting the shape take its form. So, do you want to describe your experience with this type of duality, to an intent and freedom of expression of the art itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you nailed it right there. I know that there are certain symbols and motifs that I love working with. For whatever reason, my heart, my body, my consciousness just loves working with. I love working with the female form. I love working with flowers. I love working with bugs. I mean, even literally, like, I love literally working with bugs. Like, I was out on my patio a couple months ago. I had one of the most magical experiences. I'm obsessed with cicadas. Obsessed with cicadas. I've had so many magical experiences with cicadas. And I was on the patio, and a cicada. Ooh, cicadas. What?
What are they called? Cicada.
Cicada. They're that bug. They come out during certain seasons, and they're not everywhere in the world, but they sound like zzz. And they're all over when they breed. They have these weird breeding cycles, so they like take over swarms, and you'll just hear like that sound in the tree for miles if you live in a place with cicadas. And one came right up.
I just want to say something there before you go on. Sorry about the interruption, but I just this year started a company because I thought, if I'm going to be unemployed, I might as well just start a company and then do something with it, whether it's consulting or whatever, right? And I called it Takeda.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, because I was like tech because of technology, and then Ida's her name, and it was called Takeda, but I never found a bug or anything. When you said that, I was just like, shut up. I don't know what that
Oh
means.
my God, I love
I don't know what it
that.
means, but
That's
it means
beautiful.
together for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna have to watch. He just put up a little video there. You'll have to watch them, hear them. They're beautiful.
Okay.
And so, like, I don't know. I just like to stay in a state of surrender and spaciousness and inspiration. And then when things happen, it's just like, oh, we're making art with the universe now. Like, the cicada came onto my patio, and we were hanging out for like 10 minutes, and she was crawling all over my arm, and she was flying in front of me, and I was taking photos and videos of her. And almost all of my art starts with a photograph. And then I make some psychedelic cool art from it. But it usually starts with a photo. And like that to me is a perfect example of just like that mixture of like inspiration and it's almost like making art with divine, like making art with goddess, making art with spirit. This, bug just comes to me, and I just love this bug so much, and this bug loves me so much, and you can feel our love through the image, even though you can't even tell that it's a cicada anymore because it's so deconstructed, right?
Right.
But I am very much about just like I surrender, like I'm a clear channel. Like every morning I wake up, and in my morning meditations, I'm just like, through my words, through my voice, through my song, through my art, just please let me be the clearest channel possible. And so that's where I start. And it usually is like that. I'm not looking for anything, and then it'll just be like this hit, and I'll need to start writing, and I can't leave my computer for an hour or whatever because it's just like fire coming through me. And then there's the refining process, and then there's the building skills process where it's like sometimes I'll be working and I know it's not like a masterpiece I'm working on, but I'm just trying to build the skill of XYZ things. So the practice component too. But yeah, I would say that for me, like it all starts with inspiration. I don't start anything by myself unless I know that I'm just doing it as a skill practice.
Very cool.
I like that. So, yeah, insects are very fascinating because they're very simple, and they do remind us of mechanisms that act on us. The mechanical nature of life that is definitely there. We are much more than that, but we also are mechanical in different ways. So I think we went through all the questions I prepared mostly. There were some about a technical aspect of your career. For example, how did you learn, and what type of challenges you had in the technical aspect? What type of technical skills you had to learn to become independent enough to create? And
Great question. With music, with singing, I was raised in a choir and then in chorus, so I was singing my whole life. And I'm pretty serious about my instrument, about my vocal. I do, a couple hours a week of vocal training, and like there's just always, it's infinite. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper with any instrument. So I'm always, working, improving, getting, expanding my range, getting my notes, getting my runs tighter, whatever it is. I'm like very serious about my vocal instrument. And then for my digital art, I picked up a camera when I was 10 and I never put it down. I love photography. And for me, it's never really, I don't know, I'm just as happy shooting on my iPhone as I am shooting on, my fancy Canon, because I do like the technical aspects of arranging what's going to be the best proportion and math for light and blah, 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 blah. But for me, it's more about like bringing the essence out and using the lens as a tool to bring someone's or my own essence out. Yeah, I would say that I've spent more of my time focusing on like the spiritual aspects of capturing the subject instead of the technical aspects of like mastering photography. And then the rest has just been self-taught, diving into the tech world, learning apps, learning different, editing softwares, and all of that I've just like dove in on my own. I've spent a few years on the same apps now that I really, really love.
Yeah, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to call it because if you guys don't mind, I think we've had an awesome time.
Yeah, so good.
And we've almost hit the 2 hour mark, which is crazy. Yeah, that's insane. But there's one thing I wanted to show. So basically, as I said earlier, this is now the official name of our podcast. The SoundRig's podcast is called The Sound of the Future. Yes, it's been ordained. I dare not smash this bottle. First of all, because it's empty and it is bad luck apparently. But let's just say figuratively, we've done it.
Yes.
Sound of the
Beautiful.
future. So we'll put that on all the YouTube channel and everything. And it's the sound of the future because we are bringing future artists to the forefront, and that is their sound that life is going to be played by, right? And it's everyone else's song as well. So if we can bring as many people, level as many people up as possible, we're going to be playing the sounds of the future of all the people to come. There you go.
Yes.
It's
Go
beautiful.
for it.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay.
I love it. This has been great. I love the questions, love the conversation, love the flow. I'll be filling out my application, and I actually booked the studio time, and I'm working on an acoustic cover with one of my homies for the re-release of Word Spoken. We're actually meeting today. So yeah, excited and moving along.
Amazing. I cannot wait to hear your voice and see the video at the same time. And I know there's going to be some exclusive stuff, so let's not spoil it for everyone. There is going to be some content in there that's only available for the SoundRig tunes, and it will be a finite amount, so it's going to be a collector's edition. Because Sam, you're going to be a superstar. You already are anyway, but when you are, these are going to be worth a dime. I'm telling you. So it should be cool.
Yes.
Evan, any last words?
Bye, Sunny. Good night.
All right, cool. Well, ciao.
Bye guys.
Thank you.
See you next time.